run the camera ASMR live stream.
Our new no, we are not doing NPR voices, not at all. But we are going to check the live stream because people seem to have problems with hearing us sometimes. It's there.
Can you hear me, everybody? Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
No, it's like we can't hear you. Thank you everyone for bearing with us. Let's hold on as we go try it again.
Welcome everybody to Unauthorized Caucus. Is it really not coming through at all?
It's like you're not even there. I don't understand. Hold on, folks. We're going to fix this so that you can hear us talk.
If I hold it right up here, can you hear me?
I'm waiting for there's a delay.
Yeah.
No. It's like it's not even turned on. You know what we're going to do? I have an idea. Hold on. We'll wait. Thank you for bearing with us. Y'all are wonderful. We love you. Nope. All right, here's what we're going to do. Today, now that y'all are watching, hold on. Where's the chat? You can hear us, but hold on. Okay. Someone on YouTube and someone on Facebook. Can you hear both of us or can you just hear me? Because as I listen to us on YouTube, it sounds like it's just my voice and that microphone's not coming through.
Yeah, can you hear me, everybody? Are you able to hear the wonderful things I have to say? Let us know in the chat, in the comments.
This is the height of.
I get it, Ryan Height.
Yeah, there you go.
Nobody else probably heard that joke because my mic is broken.
She hears both of us. All right, put it back on and let's rock and roll. Welcome to the height of 2020 professionalism, everyone. When COVID dragged even the cable networks back into their homes. I say COVID. It was really the government that dragged cable networks back into their homes. I wish they would have just shuttered the cable networks, to be completely honest. But here we are. So, welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everybody. Another Unauthorized Caucus. It's Thursday. It's noon, and we both have microphones. Therefore, it is caucus time.
It is indeed.
It is indeed caucus time. But before we go much further, let me take the first opportunity here, like 5 minutes in, but still first, to make sure that I invite you to go to phyllisschlafly.com. Of course, as always, you should go and sign up for the email list. There will be a little banner up top. Give me your name and email. Promise we won't sell it or abuse it, but you will get great things, great resources, especially after this Thursday caucus there on the email list. But also, you're going to find out about exciting things, which includes coming to meet us live.
Mm-hmm.
And where would they do that, Mason?
Eagle Council 52, which you can find out about by going to either eaglecouncil.com, or if you have issues with that link, go to phyllisschlafly.com/council. Right? That's the right one?
I think so, yeah, but eaglecouncil.com is the right link and it works. Yeah. Thank you for instilling confidence in our products. But yeah, go to eaglecouncil.com. And of course, you will be able to meet us because we'll both be there. But we have a huge amount of speakers that are coming up. I'll make sure that the Eagle Council link is in our resource email. But you're going to see people like Alex Newman from the New American and Liberty Sentinel. Tiffany Justice is going to be there from Moms for Liberty. Some names that you may or may not know that you should. People like Todd Bensman, probably the premier source of news and real information on immigration in America from the southern border. Garrett Ziegler, he was in Peter Navarro's office on trade in the White House. He's the guy behind the transparency movement over the Hunter laptop. John Eidsmoe is a constitutional scholar and attorney who's been around for a long time in constitutional circles. He is wonderful to listen to, always rich with not only the history of something, but how it applies to us today. So all across the spectrum from top to bottom, there are going to be some really neat people there. And that doesn't even include you, the people who are coming like us who aren't big and famous speakers, but who care about these issues and want to network with each other and know what can we do, be encouraged, be empowered with knowledge, we'll all be there. It will be a really wonderful time. It always is. Looking forward to it. We've not really gotten back into the swing of these, any big political events until this year, it feels like, after the whole 2020 shutdown. So I'm excited that we're able to launch with CPAC and all the others that are kind of going back up. It's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a hoot. And, best of all, you will get to see us there.
Yeah, well, yes, of course. Best of all, as he says at the end of the day, you will be able to see. So, yes, Andrew on YouTube says Alex Newman will be great. And even though we also agree with you, you work for Alex Newman. So that's kind of a shill move, but we respect it. I might pin your comment. It's okay. I appreciate a good thing. Yeah, we're going to star that. But there will be good speakers there. You don't want to miss it. And I tell you what, Eagle Council has always been one of, in my opinion, there's a lot of good conservative conferences you can go to, learn more, take notes, hear from people, and rah-rah and woohoo. But Eagle Council has always been a really neat place to hear from activists, from people who actually are out in the trenches, in states, local issues, getting things done. Not just people who walk the halls of Congress in DC, but folks who are out in the states, out in the communities. And that kind of action, what can I do, I feel like is often the biggest thing. Like, we talk about, we can identify the problems. What did we talk about a few weeks ago? Oliver Anthony and his music, man, he's identifying the problems. People are mad, they're beaten down, they're upset, and they kind of know who's to blame. Powerful, selfish people. But then what do we do about it? I feel like would you agree? This is like the number one thing missing from the realm of conservative politics is, well, what do we do about it successfly? What actually works?
Right. And the thing to do about it is never simple. It's not just we flick a switch and all our problems go away. And that's why it's so important to hear from these activists who are on the ground, who are putting in the blood, sweat, and tears day after day to make changes in their communities and on their state levels. And ultimately, those will have an impact on the national level. So it's very important that you sign up today and come join us at Eagle Council 52 and learn about what's truly going on the ground in the conservative movement, to see what it's like to be a Phyllis Schlafly Eagle, and to, help make America change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, today I would like to do that very Phyllis Schlafly Eagle-y thing and dive into a thing that we can do that actually makes change. Because to your point, it's never easy, but I would argue as difficult as it is, it's not complicated. It's very easy. Often it is very easy. Not all of the solutions, but the one we want to talk about today is, and as you may have guessed from the headline that you got onto while you were reading the one headline and we were trying to talk back and forth, is the power of the word no. Now, you might think that we're about to jump into the Me Too argument and just say no means no, but this is a very powerful phrase, a very powerful word that I think it's worth exploring as a conservative, as a limited government person, as an American, the power of no. And I mean, this is a very purely American thing. If you think about it, go all the way back to the founding. Well, was it? It was, Parliament, government says, we want you to do this, and then you have to do this, and you have to do this. And there's finally a point where just it's a little bit more complex than that, but you just say, no, I'm not doing that anymore. No, I'm not going to. That's wrong. I will not do it. It's almost not even the action. Oh, that's the good book. It's not necessarily the action of going or of doing something, being the leader. It is the action of just kind of going along with or letting someone else set the rules. In this case, letting the radical left set the rules and abiding by them and living in their world. Maybe it really is just that simple and powerful to say no.
Right.
And that's the book reference. It reminds me of. Have you read Rod Dreher?
Rod Dreher. Benedict Option.
Well, no, not. Yeah, yes. But have you read his book, Live Not by Lies?
I haven't read that one.
Oh man, you got to read it. And there's a book recommendation. I'll put it in the. But his whole point is, at a bare minimum, you just have to not go along with. It's not that I'm actively participating. I have to reject passive admission of what you're doing.
Right.
I just have to say no. And that kind of, passivity, I think there's oftentimes we feel like we're not participating or helping something move along, but there really is an option for us to dig our heels in and say no. And surprisingly, it works.
Yeah.
So
what really kicked off this whole topic is if you saw 1 or 2 days ago, I think it was maybe like 3 days ago or 2 days ago that it happened, and the day after it started making rounds on social media, particularly X, formerly Twitter.
Twitter, trying to be X.
It's X.
It's Twitter.
Anyways, we don't dead name on this live stream.
Spoken like someone born in this century.
Yes. So on X, there's this video. Speaking of born this century, a 12-year-old kid he had a bunch of patches on his backpack, and the one that
running for class president, no less.
It looked like VP on his backpack.
Was it VP? I don't. He was running for student body.
Yeah, something. He was going to be in charge of something.
That was advertising.
You know? He's a young leader in the making. You know, he's clearly very popular. Has the strength and the confidence to walk around with a campaign poster on his backpack, as well as a bunch of little patches. One of which was the Gadsden flag, the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, or if you were born this century, the "No Step on Sneck" flag.
I know that reference.
Okay, he's in with the kids these days. Or I was surprised that the Doge patch didn't get him in trouble, but I thought that one was funny. But yeah, he had the Gadsden flag, and the school administration was like, "You can't go to class with that," and he said no. And they were like, "Okay, we're gonna have this meeting, and we're gonna bring in your mom, and we're gonna do this whole thing where we tell your mom the things you're doing wrong, and just expect your mom to tell you, oh, you're so bad, and you gotta adjust." But what the mom, there's a video of it. There's a video of this whole interaction, which I think is colossally important to this situation. But in the video, you know, you have the school administrator. I think she was some sort of vice principal. She wasn't a teacher, from what I could tell, explaining to the mom that the Gadsden flag has roots in slavery, and that is why he has to take it off, because he is a racist white supremacist for having the Gadsden flag. That's not exactly her words, but that's essentially what she's alluding to. And the mom is like, "No, that's not what this is."
Right.
You know, you would think at an educational institution in which they teach students the history of the world, and particularly the country that they live in, they would be able to recognize the difference between a flag of the Confederacy and a flag of the United States American Revolution.
Right.
So yeah, that's what really kicked this off, and the fallout has been overwhelmingly against this, not only this school, but the school administrator, to the point where they're immediately like, "Okay, we messed up here, and we kind of need to adjust some things." I think the governor of the state of Colorado even was not too fond of what was going on.
I think he labeled out a tweet or an X.
A zeet.
A tweet. A zeet? A jeet?
Jeet. That sounds Chinese.
Well,
they control our economy. Anyway.
I was about to say, I'm
topic for another
your
time.
Words.
So yeah, the outcry
it was interesting. And well, first of all, just for the sake of specificity and understanding, this is what was it, Vanguard? Vanguard schools. This is a K-12 charter school system in Colorado. I think if I got that right. So this wasn't a public school. It was a private school, which probably has something to do with the quick response of school board. But this really kind of brought up a very interesting, now, you know, well, two things. First of all, they didn't, you know, this kid and his mom didn't just say no. They were ready. They were ready to give a defense, which, I mean, there, you know, that's right back there. We're falling into, you know, my first priority, into the biblical understanding, always be ready to give a defense. You know, this is, now, of course, I'm not trying to misconstrue scripture. Obviously that's talking about, you know, your faith, but still, it is an applicable lesson across the board. We must be ready to give a defense for why it is that we do fill in the blank. And I think that it's incredibly important in this regard, because you see several different things. First of all, mom was prepared. One party consent state, Colorado, she was prepared in the world of James O'Keefe and everything else to go for it. This kid was prepared to face adversity, and even just not with saying anything, but if you go watch the video, which we'll include in the link here in the show notes, and when we're done, I'll make sure that goes out. But this kid was he was ready to go. He actually almost kind of had a little smirk on his face, because the whole time he was just confident that, I know what you're saying is a load of hot garbage. Like, that's not what that flag is. Yet again, there, he was prepared with the historical knowledge. He knew what it was. So, and what it isn't. So this confidence and the ability to say no is partly born from our being well-versed in history and understanding of what it is we're doing, what we can and can't do, and knowing what's coming for us if we stand up for these things that are right, or for, you know, the history that is ours as Americans. But then not only did they have that understanding, which is empowering and gives you confidence, but when the time came, they just said, no, nope, not going to do that. And you're not going to make me, because you're wrong. And that's not actually the rule. And, you know, fill in the blank, they were armed. But just the very powerful act of saying no, 48 hours later, the school board has said, yeah, he can wear that patch, and he's back in school with the patch. And he actually never, he was still at school, I think, in the intermediate time there, the day they were still waiting to hear from the school board. But it was fast, and it was all just from them saying, no,
right,
I'm not going to do that. So it's been a really neat story to follow, which, by the way, another plug, the people I saw the most press on this from were the Tuttle Twins books, because this family is apparently big readers and purchasers of the Tuttle Twins books, which, if you're not familiar, you should be. Go and look. A shameless plug, a homeschool family that uses them. And they're great. But I mean, they were just like this. Yeah, this kid's obviously a Tuttle Twins reader. Or, when the woke mob comes after you, but you've read the Tuttle Twins book several times over. There's a world of memes that were quite funny, because they were, again, here's a company that serves to equip people with the knowledge and the power to know what they're doing, and then say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's wrong. And I know where to stand up for my morals. They get to trot that out, which that should be their advertising for the next at least 4 election cycles. It's pretty powerful. But that was one, but another one, that kind of kicked off our conversation, but there's another pretty high profile figure that is also in the midst of his years long at this point. And we're talking about Jordan Peterson now. We're going to shift. You said
this was an American thing.
It is an American thing, but you know what?
He's Canadian.
He is, but at this point, I feel like he's outspoken enough and just doesn't give a flying leap what people think. I feel like that's an honorary American position. Like, we could adopt Jordan Peterson. I would be okay with that at this point. I don't agree with him on everything, but I think he's very well spoken in the, no, that's dumb, and I'm not going to do it. But that's exactly, just like this kid said, no, that's not what that is. Jordan Peterson got in trouble. When did this all start for him? Do you want to give a little synopsis of that, or are you not as familiar?
I mean, I think you're much more well versed on this than me, but from what I understand, it's that the psychological certification board for his medical license decided that, we just don't like all these things you're saying about anti-pronoun, anti-trans, this, that, actually saying things that are true and reasonable on a public stage. They decided, okay, well, we're going to send him to a re-education camp. Not exactly, but we're going to, you have to get re-education training now because you have fallen out of the party line and you have committed wrongthink, Dr. Jordan Peterson. So to remain a doctor that can practice doing therapy, you need to do these things.
And and this is, did you say the College of Psychologists, the associate?
I didn't know their exact name.
I was gonna say, because that is, and that's, everyone wonders, this is not technically, and there is a law, you're not allowed, you can in fact be charged, is it criminally or civilly? Is it criminally for mispronouncing someone
in Canada? Yes,
in Canada?
I think it is a criminal offense.
This isn't that. This is his professional association, the College of Psychologists of Ontario, where he was a University of Toronto professor. Was, I think, for a long time, or is a professor emeritus, something like that. He's not actively teaching, but this is his association going after him to basically say, we'll strip your license if you don't go through this re-education training. Our word, not theirs. They call it social media training, which
really
doesn't. Yeah, I think so. They keep calling it social media training, and I'm like, because social media ought to be the critiquer of all of how we say everything. Ooh. Anyway, maybe I have that part wrong, but they're demanding he go through this training, this re-education program, or we'll strip you of your license. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. And no, you shouldn't and can't strip me of my license. They went to court over it, and a court agreed, kind of lamely, but yeah, you have the right to free speech, but also if you're part of this association, you have to do what they say or they can take that away from you. So they essentially agreed. So I think more important than all of that, though, more important than all of the court cases and the associations and the everything, is the fact that, had anyone hardly heard? I mean, Jordan Peterson, I think, just barely started clipping the radar, because this all kicked off when, like 2018, 2019, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that this was something that was right about when Jordan Peterson was getting onto the radar. I'll double check. Yeah. He stopped seeing patients in 2017, but he's been receiving they have been receiving complaints about him since 2018. So I think that they were pointing to things from 2022 last year where they were in there, but he's been in hot water for a while. Basically, when he started getting outspoken is right about when he got on the radar, and that's when they started coming after him for, who he was, not just making feminists mad on cable, news programs, which is where I first got to see him. But now this platform that he's gained they have given him more fuel to his fire by fighting him. And all he has done is, I mean, really, and to our point, he has expensively, but simply said, no,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that.
Right.
I'm not going to call you that. I'm not going to lie to you or go along with this lie. No, I'm not going to. That's really all he's done. And he has stuck with that no. And now, of course, he's built on it. He's got this empire of media now, especially plugging into the Daily Wire. But at the end of it, just like Jaden, this kid in Colorado, no, I'm not going to do that. And it like these are two contemporary examples we're watching play out in real time of a powerful media figure, thought leader, just a regular everyday kid who hits the news, people who just say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I mean, I kind of equate that to our founding fathers who just, at the end of the line, no, we're not going to do that. Let me fight inside the system to change it. And it just keeps increasing until no. You know what? We're not part of Great Britain any longer. No. Like it's a very simple, but a very hard thing. And I think that we've kind of lost that, whether we're distracted by the Netflix world around us, or we think it's too hard, or we're the only ones. We don't really dig the heels in and say no. And it doesn't have to be angry. It's just very plain. No, I'm not going to do that. There's power there.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple things that at play here that can kind of be discerned, couple like broader trends that could be useful for our strategy going forward. I mean, first, there's a very obvious like Streisand effect thing going on here, where they point out that, especially with Jordan Peterson, by trying to point out that, oh, we don't like him and we're going to punish him, they draw a bunch more attention to him. And that's kind of the same thing with this kid. Like if they had just like ignored the patch, nothing would have happened. And it'd be fun. But now it's like, okay, well, now there's an issue with these school board people, and now everybody knows about that, and that's going to be addressed. But I also think that there's an interesting kind of dynamic here of what happens when you force the left to overextend themselves, or the left, or Marxist libtards, whatever you want to call them, postmodern neo-Marxists. When you deny them something, that forces them to do something about your denial of their command. And when that happens, there's a few different ways this can go, but I think that the way that it often goes is when they overextend themselves and they play their hand, essentially, that brings in parties who otherwise might be ambivalent to take action in favor of whatever you want to happen, such as in the case of the student at this school in Colorado. When he stands up for himself, that kind of forces these school administrators to take this ridiculous position, which in turn forces a response from the people higher up, and from lawyers that could get involved, and from the government that hey, this isn't right. Whereas usually they probably wouldn't have gotten involved with a leftist teacher being insane, or leftist school administrator being insane.
Right.
Once you deny them their power, then it turns into a bigger thing. I mean, that's what lawsuits essentially do in general. It's like when you deny something, and then it can become this big thing that sets a standard. And I and that's kind of how it happened with the American Revolution as well. It's like, but that's a point where it bubbles over and it can't be solved within the system. But I was thinking of The Patriot with Mel Gibson, where Gibson's character, if I remember correctly, he's kind of ambivalent towards the whole revolutionary effort until he actually faces the consequences of British rule in a very personal way. And then he goes from somebody who would have been, didn't care very much and could have gone either way really, into somebody who recognizes, okay, well, there's these issues at hand that can't just be ignored. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more on a lot of issues. But, and this is kind of a flashpoint of that in the case of this school, where if we just let these leftists seep into our schools, and this is a class, this is not your public school with the crazy red-haired gender studies, porn in first grade type teacher. This is a school that's described as a classical school, which just because you describe yourself as a classical school,
it's connected to a college that neither of us are familiar with.
Never heard of
it. They use Hillsdale's curriculum, or part of it, or something. They purchased it.
They claim on their website
whether they use it or not, apparently,
to be classical education modeled after Hillsdale, which really shows that just because you say that doesn't mean you're doing that. There's a lot more to classical education than just reading the Federalist Papers once in history class.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
but no, I mean, to your point though, and I really think that's where we are I think that that's a good place of where we are. And by the way, someone we're bringing up here, we're going to get into this over on the Rumble chat. The Rumble chat got fun today. You know why? Because one of you moved over. You know who you are. You moved over from YouTube to Rumble. But the problem that I have with this is that you're switching up your usernames here. You're going by one username over here, one username over here. This is very confusing. Okay. We just need to identify with our original username. You can't just change your username. It's kind of like gender. You can't just swap. Your username is, no, I'm kidding. You can change your username. It is slightly confusing though, but
it's fine. And Ryan will get over it.
I will. Thank you very much for telling me, Mr. Liberal, what I will and won't do. No, but that really, the point of here, the Rumble chat's going crazy back and forth between Velveteen Rabbit and PN517. I love usernames on the internet. They're so great. This is one of the reasons Reddit's one of my favorite things, just because the Reddit names are always crazy. Sorry, I digress. Coming up is an opportunity for us all to say no, because of the looming new round of COVID restrictions that are supposedly right over the horizon. Now, I wonder, before I get into the politics of that, this is definitely an opportunity for all of us to say no, because again, I think that all of us went through the first time around, because what we now know is a whole lot different than what we knew in March of 2020. Even if we knew that we were limited government, I don't like being told this. I don't think we should do that. I think this may be the wrong response. There was a lot of unknown. Now, the origins of the virus, the efficacy of a vaccine, all of these different things we now know. And there's research and experience, and the experience isn't anecdotal anymore. It's scientific because it's in such great amounts. This is a very different proposition than the first time around. So if this is coming, this makes me wonder if, by the way, if they're testing the waters to see if it's possible again, or if they're just that actually the rumblings of something coming, this is actually coming down the pike. I don't know. This is a very interesting opportunity where some of us took the opportunity as Americans to just say no and let it play out. What are you going to do to me? No, I'm not going to wear that mask. No, I'm not going to take that vaccine. Fire me. Like whatever it is, we had that experiment. I think that it's a whole different ballgame this time around, because even since that time, a lot of the now empirical evidence has solidified. And I think this is a very interesting opportunity. To your point, saying just not doing what the radical left wants to do makes them so mad that their response and reaction is even more insane than the first time. So I really do think, I personally hold the belief that the more we push and say no on every little thing, not that you're trying to nickel and dime someone, but just really don't let them get away with anything. You know why? It makes them go crazy. They show their craziness more. And there's a lot more people out here, to your point, like the Mel Gibson in the middle. I love that part, by the way, the arc of, I'm a parent. I haven't got the luxury of principles. Well, if you're a parent, principles are all that exist because you're parenting your children. So you might use that as an excuse to try to avoid something that's going to be hard. Understandably, I get it. But at the end of the day, it's going to affect you. You have to get involved. And that's where we are now. Hey, you might try to unplug, but just because you say, oh, well, an adult can choose to do whatever they want. I don't care if adults want to dress and drag and change their gender identity. Well, no, it's not just that, because then it's going to be, we want to expose your kids to it. We want to bring it into schools, into libraries. We want other people to drag their children to it. And there's a line where you have to go, okay, never mind. I can't ignore this. Well, yeah, we shouldn't have ignored it the first time. We should have just said no. And kind of felt, ooh, I don't like that. I'm going to say no to that. But a lot of people, ooh, I don't like that, but I'm going to mind my own business. Well, there's a time for minding your own business, but that's, that's not these things we're talking about. I think that there is a much greater need for people to say no. And I think that the more some of us do and make the radical left mad, the more a lot of other people will look over and go, ooh, I think I should chime in on this, because what they're suggesting is nuts. And I agree with that. We can make them go further almost. I think it's an actual strategy as well.
Yeah, it is.
To just, rather than turning up the heat slowly, to just make them go to 11. And then everyone says, ooh, no, never mind, not that. And they might have otherwise gone along with it until it's too late. We lived passively and allowed it. I think that's an actual strategy. The more we say no, not again angrily, like Jaden or Jordan Peterson, just no, they're not going to do that, and then just let them freak out. And I think a lot of other people standing around suddenly start to look around the field and go, I don't want these people. I don't like these people.
And it's either like they observe it or they feel the effects of the left's wild response of, they're going to put down some tyrannical or draconian measure to, make people bend the knee. And And people don't like that. People aren't going to like that. If and I think this COVID thing, if it comes up in whatever way it starts to come up, if they start doing these new restrictions, this is a slam dunk victory for the right. If we just say no here, and whatever they do, they might. At the very worst, it's like, okay, police are going to like shut down your business, yada yada yada. If they, even if they try to ramp it up again, it's going to really show that, okay, the regime is at the point where it's so starved of legitimacy that it just has to use the police to go do things for it, and that's kind of already what's happening. But that's only going to continue happening as the COVID, if this COVID thing comes back. That's how it's going to go. This is an easy win for us to just deny them their authority. We do not believe in the science, what you call the science anymore, the same science that says like there's no such thing as a woman and a man can be a woman, et cetera, et cetera. This kind of science, we just deny all of this now. We deny the legitimacy of this supposed scientific authority that the CDC and that these the Health and Human Services Division of the U.S. federal government that says that eating eggs and steak is bad. We deny you of your authority. We do not believe in what you're saying. And so we're not just going to sit by and say, okay, let me wrap microplastics around my face every day for months at a time and then like stay inside and don't get any sunlight. No, we're not going to do that again.
Tell me how you really feel, Mason.
we're not going to do that again. Certainly not going to do that again.
But it does not just getting people. I mean, there's a lot more to it. The upcoming potential pandemic 2.0. The upcoming pandemic 2.0 definitely has more than just getting us to bend our knee and say yes. There is a lot more to it than that because there's more you can tinker with. The chat, which by the way, a third person has entered that. I say a third. There's more over there, but a third voice has entered the Rumble chat, and now it's really just taking off. And yes, I know who some of you are. I just don't use the names. I prefer to use the usernames because I enjoy your usernames, and also you get some anonymity. Keep it while you can. But as I see this taking off, people are starting to talk about the election. And yes, just like we heard, this what's going to happen to the 2020 election because of the camp. I think a lot of us wondered and worried if, in fact, there would be a suspension of the election itself, which I argue that we didn't see a suspension of it, just a suspension of good practices. But 100%, I am extremely confident that the greatest probably the greatest victory that the left achieved throughout the whole pandemic 1.0 was universal mail-in balloting in places where it wasn't even close to getting there, but that scared people enough to let them say, oh, sure, I guess we could do that this time. But then it's going to be the next time and the next time and the next. You don't give them an inch, and we gave them an inch. And I am quite certain that is one of the primary reasons that the rumblings of another pandemic are coming up now, because we have primaries starting in February or March. Yeah. You got to start it now so that over the natural flu season, we can scare everyone else with the fake flu. And that I say the fake flu. I'm being very hyperbolic. Don't worry. There is a real flu. In fact, well, we don't have to go on to that. I have my own. Never mind. I'm going to stop now. That's a digression that we do with a whole YouTube. Well, yeah, banned from YouTube, but also another 45 solid minutes we're not going to get into. But we've got to start ramping that up now, because we have an election coming up, and whether they're going to, and this is my take, and you can give another one because I see it being talked about here, whether they're going to suspend the election or they're just really heading for universal mail-in balloting, which is the easiest way to cheat when you don't have. I mean, there's a reason, and you can look across our website at phyllisschlafly.com. You'll find all kinds of arguments about election day and why that matters. Everyone, one day, in person, all together with the same amount of knowledge voting is a big deal. There's a reason why it was established that way, and it wasn't just because we didn't have the technology we have today. There's a reason why, and it matters a lot. And of course, we have absentee balloting, even in states that are really cracked down, like Missouri. We have, thank you, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft and all the rest of our state officials. We now have paper ballots only, and this and that, photo ID and all the things. And of course, there's absentee voting. There always has been. But you might be working on election day. You might be out of town on election day, and we want to make sure you can vote too. Yeah. But you have to have a reason, and you have to go somewhere and do it early, or you have to request by mail. And I don't remember if it was notarized or not. It wasn't hard. There were a couple of hoops to jump through, but it wasn't just, here's 10 ballots to your address. Would you like to send them all in? In fact, we'll send someone to come and pick them up. Right. Just don't ask who employs them and if it's a campaign. Are you kidding? Like no one else looks at this and says,
Right.
no, we should never touch that. And yet we allowed it to happen. In a lot of states, they aren't just like crazy, completely far gone states. And that's definitely coming again.
Yeah,
so
they're gonna use that going forward. Because Ed on the Pro America report today, the What You Need to Know, it's about the 2020 election and kind of the 2024 election, talking about how the Democrats planned out for years leading up to the 2020 election how they were going to win that by whatever means possible. And a lot of this has been put out in the open, as well as the investigations being done around ballot harvesting and ballot fraud, et cetera, et cetera. It's if there's ever been a pandemic, which makes me wonder if it's even going to happen, because it's like how do you know a pandemic's coming before it comes? Like, shouldn't it be completely preventable? But it's like, okay, if we know that the pandemic is going to just come around the corner, it's all part of the Democrats' plan to turn the election into a narrative that they can handle and control in a very specific way, and we don't have to play along with it. But it's going to be very difficult to hinder their entire program. Although that may be very difficult, we can very easily deny their controls that they try to put on our personal lives. And hey, you know what? Maybe we'll get 10 ballots this time.
Right.
Very doubtful, but you never know.
I see in the comments, by the way, or in the chat, someone saying voting by mail is like putting cash in an envelope. You've seen the same meme I have, and that's actually a pretty good analogy I've used for people who say, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, would you mail yourself cash? Well, no, that doesn't seem smart. I'm like, why would you do it with the vote? Like, it's a good analogy. If you wouldn't put $50 in an envelope and mail it to yourself because you don't trust it, why would you trust your vote, which is worth so much more? The decision, future making of our country. That's actually good, because there are a lot of people out there who don't really realize what's going on. And that's not even getting into the whole, was there fraud conversation or not? I mean, this is just a more simple, why would we want to do it this way? Like, is this the best way even? No, we shouldn't do it. There's a lot there, and I'm pretty sure that's the direction they're heading. That's what they want. They don't want to suspend the election. I reserve the right to be wrong. They may, but I think what they want is, mail-in balloting again in the same amount, the same way. And by the way, I see Velveteen, you've got a interview suggestion. We'll look that up. I wrote down the name, so we'll look it up, and just wanted to make sure you saw that was on the radar. We listen, or rather we read, because all we're listening to right now is each other. But anyway, we read. That's that though. I mean, we could go on almost endlessly about this, but I think that there's an incredible amount of power simply in just saying no. And I feel like in our very complex and complicated political world, sometimes that kind of goes by us, how important it is to just say no, even to the little things. No, I'm not going to go along with that. And also, it doesn't have to come with anger. It doesn't have to come with frustration. It doesn't have to come with a long list of reasons. You can get into and speak slowly and simply to leftists. They're very, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding, actually. They're slow. But, well, there's people who are very confused and deceived. That's the reality of it, because it's not a worldview that makes sense when you actually dig into it. But you don't have to come with all of that stuff loaded for bear, ready to unleash on them, just the simple no. Well, why not? Because I don't want to, and that's not right. Well, I said so. I mean, it's that we were talking about that the movie, whatever the movie was with Christopher Walken. Put your hands up. Oh yeah. No, I don't want to. Why not? Well, I don't want to. Well, I got a gun. I don't care. Yeah. Well, I got a gun. I don't care. Yeah. I mean, that really kind of should be our mantra moving forward. I think at the basic level, the first level, as conservatives, we need to adopt no. And it's not angry. It's just simple. No, I don't want to do that. And I don't think it's right. And then let the conversation go from there. Yep. It's working for Jaden. It's working for Jordan Peterson. Even if they do strip him of his license and boot him from Canada, all the better. Again, we'll bring him down here and give him citizenship. Right. Yeah. But I mean, even at the loss of that, what has he gained? A whole lot more than his license from some industry or association that are obviously full of crackpots. I mean, this is, what have you really lost? It's very simple, but I think that's incredibly important to stop and focus on. So we were talking about it this week. A 7th grader in Colorado led the nation this week on it. Jordan Peterson right behind him. Right. A Canadian and a 7th grader, people. We can do it if a Canadian and a 7th grader can. I'm sorry to all of our Canadian brethren. My apologies. I know
Sorry.
they're good. Sorry. They're good Canadians. I know they're good Canadians. It's just your government that sucks. It's, but anyway, I think that's probably a good place to punch it there, though. You're going to learn about this at Eagle Council, so you should come.
When that big white van with the hammer and sickle on it rolls up to the elementary school, tell your kids, just say no to communism.
Just say no to communism.
Yep.
It's true. We're going to take
drug. Hey kid, want some communism?
Yeah, communism is the new drug. We were talking this morning. We're going to come out with a string, and we're just going to redo all of the 1990s and 2000s police anti-drug commercials, except communism, because it is.
That'd be hilarious.
They talk about, what was it? Karl Marx said that religion was the opiate of the masses, but I'm fairly certain that it's government welfare. That is the opiate of the masses. Communism is the real problem.
That's the fentanyl of the masses.
Blame, I love it, in all caps, blame Canada. Yes. Anyway, yes. I'm just saying. And then someone saying vote early, vote often. Oh, if I didn't know who you were, we might ban you from the chat, but I know who you are, T-Rex Inc. There's a cool company, by the way. Go and get some t-shirts. Go to T-Rex Inc. or look them up. I think you'll find them both on Etsy and trexinc.org.com something. Feel free to drop it into the chat. There's a little plug.
A paid promotion. It's just good.
It's not a paid promotion. We just like good patriotic t-shirts. So you're good to go there. But yeah, that's I think that's it. We'll put a punch on it there. The power of no is very big, very important, but very simple. And I think it takes a lot of guts, but I think it takes less guts if we all do it together and we don't force each other to be the one standing out front. So come to Eagle Council, be in the midst of a bunch of other people, and come next week and listen to another rip-roaring conversation. Join in on the Rumble chat since it's taken off now. I even see a couple of people have skipped over from YouTube to Rumble today, actively realizing where the fun was happening. So
Rumble is the place to be.
Rumble's the place to be.
Rumbling.
Yeah, it's no. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. This is Mason's last episode from Matchup. No, but we appreciate it. Thanks for being with us. We will be back next Thursday. Shoot us an email, info@phyllisschlafly.com if you have any topics or suggestions you'd like to see covered. And then make sure and go sign up phyllisschlafly.com for the email list, because today is going to have a lot of links and a lot of resources that you probably will want to know about. So go sign up for that. And Mason and I will look forward to next Thursday.
Yep. See you next week. Same time.
Same place. Maybe we should go to a different place in the building now. The internet.